Across this skyline, you see thousands of years of human devotion stacked on top of itself. Domes, spires, and stone walls overlapping in a dense labyrinth of history. Yet beneath the pavement, the earth holds no massive reserves of oil. There are no gold veins to mine, and it doesn't sit on a major trade route. Before the great monuments, this was a harsh, dry settlement clustered around a single water spring. Despite offering almost zero strategic wealth, this exact spot has been conquered, razed, and rebuilt more than almost anywhere on the planet. For 5 millennia, empires poured their blood and treasure into claiming it, only to weaken, fall, and be replaced by the next invading army. We usually think of humanity's deepest drive as physical survival, but the endless cycle of violence over this specific hill in the desert points to a different reality. Humans will fight relentlessly to protect the ideas and identities that define them. The shift from survival to symbolism started around 3,000 years ago, when King David and Solomon established a capital and built a temple. The Israelite faith became anchored to these specific stones. Then, in 587 BC, King Nebuchadnezzar II of Babylon besieged the city. His forces leveled the temple and violently exiled the Jewish population, creating a massive collective trauma. Here is an underlying rule of human psychology. People can lose territory and survive, but if you strip away the culture and stories that tell them who they are, they feel like they are losing their actual existence. The trauma of the Babylonian exile shifted the city from a physical location on the map into an internal memory. It became an idea that could be carried anywhere, surviving even when the people themselves were far from the land. Centuries later, Alexander the Great swept through the region, bringing an aggressive wave of Greek culture that pressured the locals to assimilate. The tension steadily mounted until it triggered a fierce, bloody uprising known as the Maccabean Revolt. History shows that people show remarkable adaptability when forced to pay taxes to a foreign king. But when an authority tries to systematically erase their culture, the reaction is almost always a fight to the death. Under Roman rule, the city's streets became the stage for a new religious movement, tying the physical ground to the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Yet Roman fear of rebellion led to another catastrophe in 70 AD, when their legions crushed a major Jewish uprising and leveled the city. The Romans destroyed the Second Temple, leaving only a section of the outer retaining structure, what is now known as the Western Wall. Even in ruins, worshippers continued to gather there, proving that human belief reliably outlasts the stone architecture meant to house it. In the 7th century, Islam emerged in Arabia and Muslim armies arrived. The city entered a long period of shared religious presence, marked by the construction of holy sites like the Dome of the Rock. This convergence is precisely what makes Jerusalem unique. No other place on earth carries supreme emotional and spiritual weight for 3 global populations simultaneously. But shared holy ground often breeds shared conflict. In 1095, Pope Urban II called upon Europe to reclaim the city for Christianity. The resulting crusade ended in the year 1099, with the absolute wholesale massacre of the city's Muslim and Jewish inhabitants. Nearly a century later, the commander Saladin recaptured the city. In contrast to the earlier crusaders, he secured the surrender and allowed thousands of opposing believers to leave safely. These cycles demonstrate a recurring psychological extreme. When individuals are convinced their violence is divinely sanctioned, they can justify committing almost any atrocity. Over the following centuries, rule of the city bounced between the Mamluks, the Ottomans, and eventually the British. Yet the idea of Jerusalem consistently outlived every temporary administration that tried to manage it. By the 19th and 20th centuries, a surge of modern nationalism, massive waves of migration, and hardening Arab and Jewish identities forged the deeply tense geopolitical conflict we recognize today. Underneath the modern treaties and territorial disputes, Jerusalem has become the location where humanity asks its most difficult question: who are we? We see the same human pattern playing out in digital spaces today. While the tools have changed, the underlying impulse remains, as people clash over the labels and stories that define their identity. The battlegrounds rotate from ancient stone walls to endless digital feeds, but the human instinct to fiercely defend the things that give us a sense of self never wavers. Jerusalem will never stop changing hands, because every single group that claims it believes a literal piece of their own existence